மிகுந்த எதிர்ப்புகளுக்கிடையே இந்திய வெளிவிவகாரத்துறை அமைச்சர் திரு சல்மான் குர்ஷித் காமன்வெல்த் மாநாட்டில் கலந்து கொண்டிருப்பது மிகுந்த பரபரப்பை ஏற்படுத்தியிருக்கிறது. இந்த நிலையில் அவரே நம்மிடம் இருக்கின்றார். அவரிடம் பல கேள்விகளை கேட்போம். Despite two resolutions in the Tamil Nadu Assembly demanding a boycott in entirety, you have chosen to come here. How do you justify your decision?
I would imagine that I don't answer to the Tamil Nadu Assembly. I answer to Parliament, and as a member of the Council of Ministers, I take my instructions from the Cabinet and from the Prime Minister. So if I'm here, it's not my personal choice. This is the decision of the government, and a government that sensitively looked at and factored every opinion that we got. There were people, let's face it, from Tamil Nadu who said that it was important to remain engaged and to ensure that our position and our mandate to push for a better life for the Tamils of Sri Lanka, the northern province, is something that we should continue to advocate. So I think there were lots of opinions. Some may be louder, maybe some were not as loud. But the government would have taken everything into account before taking a decision. And this is a time when the Prime Minister is busy with a lot of preoccupation. There are 5 elections going on. There are economic the conditions in the country that require constant monitoring. And therefore, putting everything together, he took a decision. And to the extent that he would have factored in whatever was felt or said or expressed by our colleagues in Tamil Nadu, I think that's obviously there.
While you say it's distressing, I would like to point out that it was the Congress party also which was a party to such a resolution. Your party was a party to the resolution.
Well, maybe, but this situation is not a easy one, and I do respect my colleagues, as indeed I respect people in Sri Lanka. But I think it's apparent to me that this is not being done with clarity. We are, after all, clearly committed to the Tamils of Sri Lanka. I would say the answer is yes, we are. Giving them homes, giving them a life of dignity. This is what we are committed to, and this is what we need to do with Sri Lanka. Shall we just leave them to look after themselves? Shall we just turn a blind eye and say that we are more interested in fighting our own elections and our own comfort than we are about their very, very critical reconstruction and rehabilitation process? I do take into account, and I imagine that it was taken into account, that the Chief Minister of the Northern Province actually had invited our Prime Minister to come to Jaffna, and I'm sure that he will invite other important concerned people in India to come.
His party had opined otherwise.
No, of course his party has opined. So if his party opines, he will want to take that into account, and perhaps in future he will not send invitations. But I mean, we have to take our party and the people's opinion into account. But at the end of the day, somebody who has a job to do and somebody who has a decision to make must do so with a clear conscience and with an understanding of what are the implications in terms of our objectives. My coming here, my participating, our engaging, if it's going to advance the objectives that we have for the Tamils of Sri Lanka, then I would imagine coming is right. If it doesn't advance, then my coming would be wrong. But the monopoly of deciding that this would work and this would be advantageous or not, that can't be of one person or one party or one group of people, no?
It is the entire assembly. All the parties have come together on this cause.
Yes, of course they have. Tomorrow they pass a resolution that the rest of the states disagree with. We'll have to accept it. I think that we must respect what they have done, but they must also respect our right to disagree. I think we are in a democracy, and what they have done, they must have good reason for doing it. But I'm not persuaded because nobody has tried to persuade me. In any case, even if I was persuaded, all I could do was to add my voice to it. I couldn't possibly take the decision. So I could add my voice, and my voice to them is, there are fishermen who are in distress. There are fishermen who are now in custody in Sri Lanka. Do you want them back? If you want them back, will you not have to talk to Sri Lanka? Would you not have to be persuasive and communicative? Is it possible to write a letter and get the fishermen back? I would imagine not. If I have to come 10 times to ensure that our fishermen come back, and these fishermen are also from Tamil Nadu, that they come back, I would do it, and they would expect me to do it. And before I left for coming here, the fishermen's organizations called upon me. They didn't come and say, don't go. They said, when you go, please make sure that the fishermen can come back. And I will certainly give my best try to ensure that our fishermen get the relief that they deserve.
The other accusation is, by taking part in this conference, you would be endorsing the alleged war crimes by Sri Lanka. This is an accusation come from the Chief Minister on you.
Well, I don't want to react to dramatic statements of that kind. We all.
You say it's dramatic?
It is a bit dramatic to say that we would be endorsing war crimes. Why would anybody in their right mind endorse war crimes? We have constantly stated, and I'm stating it here, this is the soil of Sri Lanka. And on the soil of Sri Lanka, I'm stating that our concerns about accountability, which is reflected also in the steps that have been taken, perhaps not as many as we want taken, perhaps not as effective as we want taken, but some steps are in the process. And we would like accountability to go to a logical conclusion. We would like, so the commissions that have given reports, the points of the reports that have recommendations that have been accepted, more that need to be accepted. Of course, all this must be done. There is no going back on this. All this must be done. We have a Sri Lanka-India Accord, and the accord must be implemented. Now, all this must be done. If someone suggests that not coming here would give us all that, then I wouldn't have come.
This is a multilateral summit. Would you engage in bilateral talks with the Sri Lankan side? What are the issues you would like to highlight? Would you express the concerns of Tamil Nadu? Would the fishermen issue be?
Of course, but multilateral, you yourself said this is a multilateral engagement. On the sidelines of multilateral engagement, you try, pull away meetings, and you try to do some bilateral meetings as well. But they are in the chair, and as being in the chair, they obviously are preoccupied. But we will try to do our best. We have, after all, a larger team. I'm not here alone. The Foreign Secretary is here. There are other officers who are here. At different levels, we will try to see what is possible within the framework that this is a multilateral engagement. But where, if we get a chance to do bilateral work, which is of interest to us, we will do it.
The question might be sounding meaningless to you. Do you think India should be upset about Prime Minister not taking part in this conference?
I don't know why should we be upset. It's our decision. It's our decision.
Because the Economic Development Minister of Sri Lanka said so. Mr. Basil Rajapaksa went on record to us saying India must be upset about not taking part, about the Prime Minister not taking part.
Why should we be upset if it's our decision? We could feel disappointed. We could feel that it's unfortunate that circumstances are such that we are not able to attend at the level of the Prime Minister. But there have been previous occasions on which the Prime Minister has not gone. The last Chogam in Perth, PM didn't go.
In 2005.
And there are many Chogam meetings in which the Prime Minister has not gone. Now, I think this is a larger issue. Our commitment to Commonwealth should be greater and deeper, and that no matter what other pressing engagements there are, the head of government must come is something that we can discuss at home. But this is not something.
Is Mr. Basil Rajapaksa wrong by saying India must be upset about Prime Minister skipping the conference?
Mr. Basil Rajapaksa is a very important politician here, and he must have some reasons to articulate point of view. But I think it's not fair for me to reflect on and respond to everything that he says. He must have said it in a particular context. I don't know the context, but clearly I can understand that they would be disappointed that the Prime Minister is not here. They must have looked forward to seeing the Prime Minister.
On Sri Lanka, are you caught up between the domestic compulsions and your foreign policy, which states otherwise?
What is foreign policy? Foreign policy is the enlightened self-interest of a nation. If you have a better way of telling me how enlightened self-interest of a nation is to be decided, other than the fact that the government of the day elected by the people who have been elected from different parts of the country, where people can locally, regionally have divergence of views, but how do you put an aggregate of that put together, not just for the moment itself, but for a longer span? Foreign policy is not about doing something weekly or monthly or even yearly. Foreign policy is over a span of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you've got to have a perspective that goes much beyond your immediate concerns and interests, and that's why we call it enlightened self-interest. And I think that whatever we have done and are doing, we are doing in consistent with the enlightened self-interest of our country.
Can you say all is well between Sri Lanka and India? The Indo Sri Lankan relationship is on track.
But I see that there are issues. I can't say that all is well unless all issues are resolved. And clearly, seeing how determined the Assembly of Tamil Nadu has been, I can't say all is well, because, as I said again, I think that we take on board how they feel, how strongly they feel. Obviously, we are sensitive to their feelings, and their feelings are that all is not well. And if their feelings are that all is not well, then we must address. All I'm saying is, that if they think all is not well, then they must suggest how all will be well, by staying away or by engaging. This is the important thing. Our understanding, limited understanding, if you like, is that by engaging, persuading, and continuing to move forward, we may get our objective. But by switching off, we will not. And this is not just my opinion alone. This is the opinion of a lot of countries that are participating in Chogam, who are saying we must make a concerted, persuasive effort to get all of us together to achieve what we want to achieve. And what we want to achieve is a life of participation and full dignity for the Tamils of Sri Lanka. And if anybody wants to fault me on that this is not an aspiration or a commitment that I should have, then they should say this to you publicly.
On the fishermen issue, on engaging with Sri Lanka on bilateral talks, what would you highlight? How do you think this has to be handled? What is your agenda on it?
Very simple. Let the fishermen for whose sake Sri Lankan government acts are Tamilians. There are Tamil fishermen here who in Sri Lanka who have a livelihood issue, and there are Tamil fishermen in India who have a livelihood issue. We all know that this is essentially a matter of livelihood, and from livelihood it becomes a matter of fundamental rights, human rights of people who are arrested and incarcerated or kept in detention for a long time. We thought the best solution is the fishermen from both sides, through their representatives, come together and talk and find a solution that the governments can endorse. And when I last came here on a bilateral visit, we had worked out that by December we will do this. And the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu was good enough to send a letter saying that she would like this to happen and to happen in Tamil Nadu. Now, if we are going to get fishermen from Sri Lanka, how do I do it? By talking to the Sri Lankan government or without talking to the Sri Lankan government? How will I do it? And if they say, please come here, then how do I do it? By talking to them or without talking to them? So I think there are some very, very obvious practical things that you have to keep in mind. You can make grand proclamations and announcements of your concern, which I again say that we respect and we are sensitive to. But at the end of the day, there are some practical things that have to be done and certain issues that need to be resolved in a practical way, so that we achieve what we want to achieve, which is to secure the livelihood of Tamilian fishermen.
Engagement is the solution. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Engagement is the solution. இலங்கையோடு பேசுவதுதான் பல பிரச்சனைகளை நாம் கையாள்வதற்கு சரியான ஒரு முறை என்று வெளியுறவுத்துறை அமைச்சர் சொல்வதாக நாம் புரிந்து கொள்கிறோம்.